Thanks for tuning in. Today's topic is going to piss off a lot of people within the preposphere. And I have to make this video because I'm sick and tired of seeing all these people out there on YouTube putting out this regurgitated BS, and that's exactly what it is, a load of BS that, oh, we all have to get our communities, we all have to become more active in our communities and interactive with our community. I'm going to tell you something right now. In a disaster, there will be no community. And I'm not talking about something like a simple tornado, which I know I'm not saying they're simple in the aspect of the damage they do. I'm saying simple as in the long-term effect of a tornado. Lives are rebuilt, homes are rebuilt, people's lives are put back together. I know people lose things. They're just material things, but a lot of people have sentimental attachments to a lot of things. I used to be that way myself, but I've gotten away from that because I realize that materialistic things don't replace memories and experiences that I had as in a physical sense. So seeing something that I might have bought for somebody who has died or whatever the case might be, that object does not hold those memories for me. The memories are in here. They're in here. I take those with me wherever I go, and an object does not keep me bound to those memories. So material things can be replaced. But what I'm seeing a lot of, especially from women in this space, is that they think that people are going to, in a disaster, people are going to gather around and they're going to build a fire in the middle of the street or someone's yard and sit around and sing kumbaya and pass the hat type of food deal, potluck meals. That is so far from reality. It's great if you're doing that now in times of calm, if you want to get together with the community. But I'm telling you, if you're prepping, you need to get your head out of your stink hole and start realizing that the only person who's going to save you and help you is you and your immediate family. Whether you're a woman prepper that is married to a man, a woman, whatever it is, you are the only one that's going to save your family, period. If you're single, well, obviously, that's a self-statement right there as far as you're responsible for yourself. Here's the thing that people don't understand. Now, I've been teaching self-reliance and prepper and survival skills. I hate that term survival. I just use it because it's the standard nomenclature, survival, but I hate that word because you're not surviving. I've been teaching now since I've been 14 years old, a lot of years. And I started my FIELD-TAC self-reliance back in the 90s with the upcoming advent of Y2K. And I've taught tens of thousands of people preparedness skills. And the people that I teach, you're not going to see them on YouTube or social media. They stay away from all of that crap. Now, I use social media to get out words like what I'm telling you here, to get out information like what I'm giving you here. But you don't see me on social media when I'm not doing a video or uploading content to help inform and educate people, because I don't need social media. I don't want social media. So here's what I'm seeing a lot of. People thinking that, they're stockpiling and let's start a community garden and let's all can together and let's all do this together and let's all do leather craft and let's all make clothes and let's all do beading and all this stuff that people think they're going to get together and do as a community after a disaster. That's not how it works. I've been in the middle of disasters, in the aftermath of them. I've seen firsthand how it goes. Katrina is a perfect example. I was driving semi at the time. I was transporting pods, the pod containers, from Oregon down to Louisiana to set up for temporary housing. I had a FEMA pass on my truck, so I could drive nonstop as long as I could drive. No logbooks, no scale houses, none of that stuff. As long as I had that placard on the side of my truck, I was bypassing everything, getting housing down there, getting these pods down there as quickly as possible to set up for housing. Now, in the zone where I was, they had borders. They had roadblocks set up. They had like fence lines. They had it set up so people couldn't cross over out of those areas and into those areas after a certain time, which was 6 p.m. From 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. there was a curfew. When I drove into those areas, I had to come up to the checkpoint. State police had to escort me in, and we had to open the doors on the back of the pod and chain them open so that people could see there was nothing in there, because if you went in there with clothes, people would bum rush your vehicle and try to break in and see what was in there, because they figured you were transporting food, water, whatever the case was. They thought it might be in there, so they opened the doors so that they could see. They're empty, nothing in them. I saw people on the side of the road carrying bats, carrying pieces of 4x4 that they could use as a club, 2x4, hammers, anything that could be used as a weapon. They had it in their hand, walking around. There was no people from next door coming together with the other neighbor and they're all, hey, let me help you, let's do that. No, it was every man for themselves. And I did it for 7 days straight. I saw it firsthand. I've been to other disaster areas where I've witnessed the same thing. A lot of times in reporting, you'll see where they're talking about, the community's really rallied around each other and they've come together and they're doing this and they're doing that. And during the day when they report these things, that usually is the case. It's the nighttime when all the cockroaches come out of the woodwork. It's nighttime when all the looters come around, all the thieves come around, all the opportunists come around. I've seen it time and time and time again. And you didn't have communities out there, setting up perimeter watches, and you got one guy standing guard in the bed of his pickup and other guys on the other end of radio comms listening, and you didn't have that. You had people sitting in their yards of their houses individually protecting their individual homes. They weren't over helping the neighbor. They weren't sitting with the neighbor over a campfire. No, it was lights out. It was black so that they had the element of surprise if somebody tried to infiltrate onto their property. This is the reality of what happens after a disaster. Even if it's something like Katrina, where obviously that's now been 21 years ago that happened. The area still isn't fully rebuilt, but it is, I'm going to say probably 60-70% rebuilt. But there's still aftermath of that. Not as great as what it would be as if it was a, complete chaos apocalyptic event. And in an apocalyptic event, I'm telling you right now, you are going to be responsible for you. You're not going to get together with the community. It could be a situation, you're living on a block. Let's say a tornado comes through. Your house is fine. The neighbor's house gets completely destroyed. Do you think that neighbor's going to stick around and be like, oh, well, I joined the community. I joined the prepper group, so let me stay around here and help everybody? No. They're going to take their family. They're going to get the hell out of Dodge. They're going to do what they need to do to set up housing for themselves, maybe clothing, food, bedding, toiletries, hygiene, all that kind of stuff. They're not going to stick around just because they're in the community and say, well, let's stick around and help. No, they're getting out. That's the way it's going to be. That is the reality. Your house may be fine, but guess what? Now, if you're not prepared for it, you're going to get looters that are going to come around, because these houses down the road here are wiped out. They have nothing. Your house is intact. You have everything. You have clothing. You probably have maybe heat, maybe water if you're lucky. You obviously would have food. You have a vehicle so that you could transport people and go places and do things. This is the reality of what happens in a disaster event, a real disaster event. Not something that lasts a week or maybe even a month or a few months, where you know that help is coming, you know that things are going to be rebuilt. I'm talking what most people are prepping for, where the society collapses 100%. And now you're in an apocalyptic collapse scenario. Is it possible that it will happen? It's possible. Is it probable? I'm going to say 35-40% probable, but with the caveat of the way things are going today and the way things are in the world and the way things are happening around this country, it's I'm going to say it's more probable than not probable at this point. We have religious zealots that are trying to take over this country, and you know who I'm talking about. I don't have to say it. They're trying to push their way in every community, even where I live, out in the mountains of the Northwest. They're trying to push that crap. Now, let me tell you, homies around here ain't going to stand for it. Not going to happen. So you need to get out of this mindset that community is the way to go. It is not. People keep saying, oh yeah, the lone wolf thing is dead. Nobody's going to survive as a lone wolf. Bull. Simple. Bull. I've been a lone wolf my entire life. Yes, I teach other people. Matter of fact, I've taught many groups of people. And let me tell you, every single group that I've taught, with the exception of one that I know of, who was a very highly religious group, and they were sticking by, their theology and the Bible, and that's great. That's on them. If they want to do that, that's all on them. Now, the last I heard, most of the people had left the group, because once my contract was done working with them, they wanted to stay on their own, and they were going to figure it out from there. And I've heard since then that many of the people in the group have left the group, and it's down significantly. It's down to about 20% of what it was when I was working with them. With the exception of that group, every other group, by the time we were done with training, now when I'm talking training, I'm not talking just a weekend seminar or a weekend course. I'm talking months and years that I've worked with people to teach them how to be properly prepared, how to think of the out of the ordinary things that most people don't have a clue about because they've never been in that situation. They've never seen that kind of situation. They may see it on TV, but what you see on TV is a far cry from the reality of being down in the middle of it, like I was with Katrina. What you saw on TV, that was like 1%, maybe 2% of the actual status of the after effects of Katrina. I was in it. I drove through it. I was in Louisiana. I was in Mississippi. I saw the damage firsthand. I know what went on there. And believe me, there was no prepper groups, no community groups getting together. Didn't happen. Community centers were shut down. The doors were chained. I passed by community centers. Big chains wrapped around the handles, padlocked, lights out. Nobody at the community center. What does that tell you? If you're going to get any kind of community support, it's going to be a community center. The housing, the pods that I was shipping in for housing, you know who's doing that? A factory business owner was giving up part of his parking lot. We were stacking them 3 high. They were building false fronts that had windows and doors, and they were taking the cargo doors and they would put them back during the day, and at night they would close those cargo doors, and they were welded with a latch on the inside so they could be locked. Why? Because that was the way for people to be safe, so that nobody could come in and steal what they had or whatever other nefarious act they might perpetrate. That was the reality. Is you had a business owner who gave of his own resources to help people, and that's the way it was. Plain and simple. So, getting back to the groups, by the time we were half to 3/4 of the way through training, and like I said, these were anywhere from months to years-long trainings, helping people get in the right mindset, training them for the right mindset, training them in tactics, training them in all this stuff. With the exception of that one group, every other group, the people would come to me individually and say, I'm starting to see some cracks in the facade here. That I'm just paraphrasing. That's not actually what they said, but that kind of gives you the idea of where they were coming from. I'm seeing cracks in the facade of this group or this community, and I don't know if I can trust so and so. And I don't know if so-and-so will stand up and, be there when we need them. So I'm thinking that maybe I should start training me and my family for independent preparedness and independent survival. So I did a lot of that as well. I took all the individual people at different times, unbeknownst to the rest of the group, because they wanted to keep it hush hush, and that's on them if they want to do that. But I trained those people individually. Of the groups that I trained, none of them, except that one that I told you about, stayed together. They end up fracturing, going their own separate ways, doing their own individual thing. Because a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And you can suss out a weak link in a community pretty darn quick. You can tell who's going to be the weak link, or the weakest links if there's more than one. And generally there is. There's a pecking order when you get into these groups. You can tell who the alpha person is, the leader. You can see who the second and third in command are going to be in these groups. You can suss it out real quick. And then you can see who are the followers, who don't have the aggressiveness and the wherewithal to be like, I'm a leader. They want to be led. And let me tell you, the people in those groups that want to be led are the weakest links that are going to break. Now, the people that I knew as the weakest links in these groups, on their own individually, they were fine. They were able to be that alpha dominant person in their own sphere of family, husband, wife, children, that type of thing. But as a group, they knew that they were not the alpha dog, and it was very plain to see. And the alpha people, and even the betas who were second and third, in line, so to speak, you could tell. They could tell that these people were weak links. And it wasn't so much that they were weak links. They just weren't group natural born leaders. They were individual leaders, because a lot of people that I dealt with were doctors, lawyers, dentists. I mean, people that were white collar professionals. But most of them, because of their status, they had taken on they had the forethought and taken on the responsibility of learning blue collar hands-on jobs, like how to do basic plumbing, how to do basic mechanics, how to do basic electrical, how to do basic building, construction, and other things, canning food, preserving food, drying food, all this kind of stuff. So as an individual, you are stronger within your family unit. Again, I'm talking parents and children, than you are in a group, because you always have to worry about that weakest link. And when that weakest link breaks, you may not know it until it's too late. But I'm telling you, I've seen it. I've put people under the stress and duress of being attacked, having looters, marauders. I mean, we made it realistic. We made it to the point where they really thought they were being attacked. And we did it on purpose. We had to do it to be able to suss out the fortitude of these people and the willingness to survive. Because if you don't know what you're willing to do to survive, you can't wait till it's action time. If you're a football player, you don't just walk onto the field opening day and say, "Oh, okay, I'm ready to play." No, you have to train. You have to get prepared. It takes months to get prepared to go out and play for a season. Even if you're a veteran football player where you've been playing for many seasons, you still have to go out and train and prepare in advance. Same with baseball, same with soccer, hockey, whatever kind of endeavor that takes physicality and physical efforts, you have to train in advance. And if you're having people coming onto your property, that's the opposing team, trying to take from you, trying to harm you, or harm your loved ones, you can't just wake up and say, "Oh, okay, I'm ready to go kick some ass out there." Yeah. No, you're not. You're going to get your ass kicked because you don't know what you're doing. You have no clue. You have to train. You have to be prepared. And I'm telling you, in community, it never happens. It never happens. When I've walked into these communities that have sought my help in teaching them to be better prepared. These are groups that had been together prior to me ever coming in and starting any kind of training. And let me tell you, every single one of those groups were so discombobulated, so unorganized. What they thought they needed was things that they read in books and things that they, seen in videos or TV shows, and they're trying to mock what they saw on TV shows. That's not how it works. That's not reality. TV is not reality. TV is entertainment. Now, you can glean some ideas from things you might see on TV, but putting them into practical use, that's a whole nother ball game. Because if you don't know what you don't know, guess what? You can't employ what you don't know, and what you don't know how to employ. Now, people might say, well, what's your background? Well, I've been self-reliant my entire life. My mom and my aunt, who were the two that raised me as mother figures, hated the fact that I was so independent. I've always been of the mindset that when I want to learn something, I seek out the best instructors in whatever it is. When I learned photography, I sought out the best photographers to learn from. Martial arts and combatives, I sought out the best. My aunt and my mom both were. My mom wasn't a great seamstress. She was okay. My aunt was a good seamstress. Taught me sewing. They taught me cooking. I took culinary arts in school. My aspiration. I am a chef, but my aspiration was to become a chef and run my own restaurant. But I got so burned out doing it in high school that I didn't. But I know how to cook. My grandma taught me how to can and bake. My uncle taught me carpentry. He was a carpenter and woodworker. Taught me that. My other uncle took me out and taught me wilderness skills, how to navigate, how to hunt, how to fish. My grandpa took me hunting with him. I was lucky enough to. I didn't get to hunt with Fred Bear, but I was lucky enough to have met Fred Bear when I was a little boy and get to know him and Henrietta. Great man. But these were all influences that I had. So my knowledge base started when I was 8 years old. That's when everything kicked off for me, because I was always my aunt would be cooking. I was always asking, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Why are you putting this in? I always grew up around older adults. I didn't really hang with children my own age from the time I was 8, 9, 10 years old on. I was always around adults because I wanted to learn what was going on in the world. I was independent. I've always been independent. I wanted to know how to do these things for myself. I did not want to have to be one of these people who, the car won't start. Well, okay, we got to call a tow truck, take it to a mechanic. No, I wanted to be able to go out, diagnose it, fix it, be back on the road. My uncle, he was a great carpenter and woodworker, knew nothing about engines, knew nothing about vehicles. Vehicle wouldn't start in the driveway, he'd have to get it towed to a shop. I didn't want that. So I learned these things. I sought out a mechanic when I was 14 years old. In my neighborhood, there was this mechanic, this older guy, white t-shirt, bib overalls, the half-chawed cigar. What you would typically think of a mechanic, a shade tree mechanic. But he was actually a professional. That's what he did for a living. He was a professional mechanic, but he did it out of his garage at his home. The guy, you could pull up and he could tell you exactly what was wrong with that vehicle. Oh, it's a bad alternator. Oh, it's a bad this. Oh, it's a bad. He knew. He taught me tricks that I just blew my mind. It's like, how did you like taking a screwdriver, setting it on the alternator, putting your ear to the end of the handle, and you can hear. It works like a stethoscope. You can hear what's going on, or on the valve cover, or on the intake, or he taught me all these valuable lessons, and I got to hang around and help him wrench on vehicles and hand him tools and pass him parts and learn where parts go. And that's how I learned about engines and how they work and how they're built. This is all stuff that I wanted to know. Transmissions, learned how to rebuild transmissions. Manuals, automatics, I prefer manuals because they're much easier to rebuild, much less expensive to rebuild than automatics. All these things. I wanted to know for myself how to do these things. I didn't want to have to go to somebody or rely on somebody else to do it. And that's what I did. And you can do it too. It doesn't matter your age. You can still learn these skills because you never know when you're going to need them. Now, with today's vehicles, obviously that's not going to happen because they're so computerized that you can't, unless you have a $5,000 to $10,000 computer, for the most part, you're screwed. But see, I don't drive computerized vehicles. I drive old vehicles for a reason. I don't want all that crap on my vehicles. I want vehicles that are mechanical, that I can fix, I can readily find parts for. I can jerry rig parts for them if I need to keep them running. Like the old diesel engine. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool diehard diesel guy. I like the old mechanical diesels that when you start them, if you disconnect the battery, guess what? As long as you keep oil in them and fuel in them, they'll run. And you can use alternative things. You can use transmission fluid. You can use kerosene. Waste vegetable oil. There's so many things you can use in those old mechanical engines. They just run and run and run and run. That's what I want. I don't want a billion computers. I don't want cameras spying on me. I don't want any of that crap. So people need to get their heads out of their stink hole and start learning and stop listening to all these gurus on YouTube that don't know their head from their ass. Because they're lying to you and they're telling you false bullshit about preparedness. Bullshit. Pure and simple. Because they don't know. They've never been in it. They've never been in a disaster, a real disaster. They have no clue what they're talking about. It's that simple. And I can spot them a mile away because I know what they're saying in a video is something they're regurgitating from someone else they heard it from. And a lot of these so-called preparedness instructors, that's another joke. That's another huge joke. Because I listened to them and I've been to different preparedness and survival outings and gatherings and seminars, and I listen to these people and I cringe because, people at the end of their speeches, people are like, and they're feeding them nothing but bull snarky. It's just ridiculous. They're lying to you and they're giving you a false sense of hope. I'm going to give you the reality of how things are from things that I've experienced, things that I've been there and done that. And that's my only reason for having this channel, is to put out information that is legitimate, that is honest, and it is going to tell you the truth. Your whole community plan, it's a sham. It's a lie. It's not reality. And I'm sure I'll get people in the comment, well, I have a community and this. Well, stay with it. If that's what you really believe, stay with it. But I'm telling you, when the shit truly hits the fan and things go to hell in a handbasket, worse than they're going now, I'm talking complete without rule of law and all that kind of crap, your present reality is going to be then fantasy, because it's not going to be the reality at that point. And you're going to be behind the 8 ball and you're not going to be prepared. If you found this information useful, please like, share, and subscribe. It greatly helps the channel. This channel is not monetized, will never be monetized. I am independent, and my support comes solely from you and the people that use my Buy Me a Coffee or my Subscribe Star. That's the only way that I get any monetary support, because I will not be part of the partner program machine. My other channel was like that, and let me tell you, it sucks. It absolutely sucks, and I will not ever be part of it again. So this channel is going to stay independent. Now, I may have some brand deals and sponsors of products that I believe will truly help people, but it won't be many. I can tell you that, because there's not many out there that I think are really good products that people can rely on. A lot of people are just pumping out dime store crap that is either way overpriced of what people can afford in their budget, or it's so crappy that you wouldn't want to have it because you can't rely on it. So I do have a few products that I'm going to be showcasing, that I've been testing. And that's the other thing too. When I get a product and I test it for a minimum of 4 months. That I don't do these. Well, we want a video out in 3 days or 7 days. No, you're not going to get that. Not with me. What you get with me is I test the product for a minimum of 4 months, because I'm not going to promote something to you that I haven't tested thoroughly and know it's going to work and know that you can trust if you need it to rely on. Plain and simple. So, I thank you for watching. Remember, plan, train, prepare, and defend. And we'll see you in the next one.